everyone, and welcome to Level 1 Adventuring. I am always, as your host and Dungeon Master, Wolfe Scott, quickly going to put everything on performance mode to ensure my computer doesn't want to melt. And now I'm right back with you. What is Level 1 Adventuring? If you've not been with us before, we are largely a tabletop role-playing game and storytelling game stream. We do a bunch of different types of games, large-scale, like, group games you're probably familiar with, like D&D, which we typically run Wednesday nights. I believe we'll be having a session tomorrow. I'll keep you in the know for that. And then we also run smaller, more solo, indie kind of games, which is more along the lines of what we're going to be doing tonight with Tales of the Burned Stones, and even some digital games. Obviously, we got a Celasta playthrough going on. Baldur's Gate 3 is right around the corner, so there's lots of content for you to check out here on the channel if you enjoy what you see. And if you do, follow us on all the platforms. If you want to follow this playthrough or any of our previous playthroughs, all of the episodes are up on YouTube right now. Hey, Valen, pleasure. Nice to see you, as always. Yeah, all the playthroughs are there. Please follow us over on the YouTube. We're growing there slowly but surely, getting ever closer to glorious monetization status, fingers crossed. And also on our Discord community, where we post updates, talk about the games we're playing. It's going to be a play-by-post space for D&D 5e soon, so lots of cool stuff to see there. Big shout out to StreamLabs, StreamSpell, tabletop audio for the music that you're hearing right now, and our AI Twitch chatbot that helps keep everyone entertained. And all of those links are down below in the description if you want to download them for yourself, upgrade your stream. We get a little cutback of that, so it is always very appreciated. Fleetwood, hey, look at all these familiar faces. Happy to have you all. We got Fleetwood, we got Valen. We're going in tight with the Tales of the Burned Stones. Speaking of which, what is Tales of the Burned Stones? Tales of the Burned Stones is a solo-friendly TTRPG, so you can play it with a group of friends or by yourself. And it is a prequel adventure to another game, which the same publisher, Fari RPGs, who's a friend of the channel. We've played more of their games on stream. We've played Firelights. We're friends on the internets now, and we talk about the games that have been created in the playthroughs. So RP's a lot of fun. RP's the author. So Tales of the Burned Stones is a prequel to another game that RP is finishing up now called StoneBurner. So where StoneBurner is like a sci fantasy that happens after a world has been absorbed in a demonic cataclysm, Tales of the Burned Stones is like the fantasy of that world during the sort of apocalyptic events, right, that ensue. It uses the Breathless system, which Fari has, I believe, developed and used on many of their other games. And it's also free, coming out this summer. I should probably pull up this page here where it shows you all the game info. At Fari RPGs, you're going to be able to download it for free in the summer, and it's also open license, so if you want to tinker with it yourself, develop some games based off of it, you are totally free to do so. So I've been having a lot of fun with this playthrough. I highly recommend all of Fari's games, to be honest with you. I haven't played one that I haven't liked. But this one, the Breathless system, I feel is very smooth, especially for solo play. And the documents presented here are really good at helping you sort of create your scenes. And speaking of scenes, I guess we're going to sling right in to gameplay. I'm just getting all of my little pages up here. So what happened the last time we all met? Let's pull Durakrem Feldeep up here. So when we last left Duragrim, we sort of learned a lot about Duragrim our past couple sessions. Essentially, Duragrim is an undead dwarf who is resurrected by a cabal of witches, who are the remnants of this great dwarven society that fell during this volcanic cataclysm that also inadvertently birthed a lot of demon spawn, right? So this is like hundreds of years after the fall of the Dwarven Empires. The world is a hellscape, and Duragrim is now a demon slayer who continues to live on in service of these strange witches and collects for them artifacts of power, sort of to an unknown end, right? People would like to believe that these witches, known as the Sisters of the Eclipse, are somehow benevolent and collecting all of these ancient artifacts of power maybe reverse the tide of battle and maybe, you know, push back against the demonic incursion. But there's no way to really tell, and so we're sort of put in the awkward position where, well, we're resurrected under their service. We just kind of have to hope that they have the best of intentions, and also we want to kill demons anyway because they took everything from us and slaughtered our family and all that fun stuff, right? So in our last session, we were actually visited by the sisters and given our next objective, you know, in their eyes, which was they've uncovered the location of a powerful artifact from the old glory days of Ha-Zuntrol, the Great Dwarven Empire, which is, I have it somewhere here, right? Is it under lore building? Yeah. Which was a magic ring forged by a runesmith named Broldha, known as the Burning Band of Broldha. And this ring was fabled to be able to exert psychic control and dominance over demons and other fiends and hellspawn, and was supposed to be at one point an answer, or at least the progenitor of an answer to the terrible cataclysm that befell Hazunrol, but it never quite got off the ground in the way they expected. And the ring, of course, was lost to time, as magic rings are wont to do. But they believe they have found it, and it is in the sort of underbelly of these caverns, which of course are now infested with demons that live under a temple somewhere across the burned remains of Hazunrol, a partially collapsed temple. And so we have been tasked there to go and find it for them. I say tasked, sort of more coerced than forced, but, you know, same difference. We took some time to explore the ruins we were camping at. We sort of set our sights on the horizon and began to march, but it was not too shortly thereafter that we ran into some resistance. We ran into some other dwarves, which we now know in this like new world that has been established. The demons are on the surface. They now have legions of dwarf loyalists serving under them, right? Sort of the new enforcers under their tyrannical hell dictatorship. And we saw a bunch of these sort of demon-sworn dwarf warriors shaking down a group of dwarven refugees that they believed to be a part of some sort of resistance movement, but the dwarves seemed innocent, but, you know, being wrongly persecuted. But all of these sort of hell-sworn dwarves were being led by a mysterious demonic figure in these, like, tattered robes that was collecting chemicals and viscera and, like, had bones and blood in vials strapped across their chest, sort of a demonic alchemist. And so we wanted to end what was happening there. We snuck up on the assailants. We managed to fight very nobly, as hard as we could, and we managed to fell the demon, which is grand for us, but then we fell prey to the dwarven reinforcements, unfortunately. So we don't know whatever happened to the refugees. They've scattered to the winds. You know, we saw them looking at us with awe and shock and surprise as we fell to the axes of our fallen brethren. But to, I would say, I don't know if it's our detriment or our betterment, as a servant of the Sisters of the Eclipse, we cannot truly die. We're already undead. So we can fall, and we can perish for a time, but we do come back. And every time we do come back, we come back a little less. We lose pieces of ourselves. We lose memories from our life before, right? And we also lose memories every time we use one of our sort of magical potions that the witches have taught us to brew, right, to fight demons. We lose memories every time we drink those as well. Pretty much anything tied to the Sisters of the Eclipse magic darkens a portion of our previous life, right? And unfortunately, we drank from a potion and we died last session. So our brains are going to be emptied out a little bit as we start this round of the game. But at least we killed that demon, so that's one less demon in the world that we got to worry about, at least for a time. I like to operate on the assumption that demons go by, like, D&D rules where You know, they're not native to this plane of existence, so we slay them here, and it will take a while for their cosmic soul stuff to be, like, reforged, but they likely will be resurrected. Like, we probably have to kill them on their home plane, which is why it's very difficult to stop a demonic incursion at a large scale like this. But hey, we at least have held off the tide for a little bit longer, and in an apocalyptic, you know, full-scale scenario, what else can you really ask for? So, I guess we should start our game with figuring out what it is that we've lost, which is an interesting place to start. We're starting with loss. But, I mean, I imagine, like, the last time we had a sort of memory lapse moment, we did it in our sleep. So, like, the memory didn't leave us immediately. It took us some time during our rest to, like, jettison from our brain. And so, yeah, I think that's how we're going to handle it as well, because death is kind of the longest sleep, when you think about it. I also realized that I'm still on the Just Chatting stream when which, you know, doesn't really matter. You just missed some screenshots of the actual playtest booklet here, as well as some things like the Burning Hand of Brolda, and what do you call it? The Duragrim right here, our protagonist. But besides some pictures, you didn't miss much. Just me talking to myself. Just me talking to myself like always. But anyway, let's put everything back on performance mode now that we are on solo stream, and we can start thinking about our loss. So why don't we use this wonderful book, this wonderful, wonderful rule book, to my favorite section, one of my favorite sections anyway, which is the Sparks section, which helps us kind of create some inspirational words, some evocative terms to guide the adventure moving forward. I'm also going to go back to the quest. So yeah, we're headed to Brolda's Bastion. We're on the journey right now. This is us dying to the to the demon. But I think we can add a new page. And we can say the first resurrection. I think this will be an easy way to help me remember where we're at any rate. And yeah, we'll try to make everything around the same text size so it's nice and big for everybody to read. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is figure out what in our minds is conjured. Let's grab this table. Let's grab our dice. So we're gonna roll. I think we're gonna roll 4d6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So 5 and 4 is the first. We got 5. We got 4. So a persuasion of loyalty. 1 and 2. A persuasion of loyalty. Interesting. Memory 1. A persuasion of loyalty. Okay. And let's talk about memory 2. And then as we get this together, we'll start thinking a little bit about what these things actually mean, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 5, 5. Whoa! Doubles. Double, double, toil, and trouble. Speaking of Sisters of the Eclipse, right? Alright, so 2 and 2 is family. Okay. And then 5 and 5 is... 5, I'm looking at 3s. I can't count. 5 and 5, exploring family. Interesting. I feel like we had explore for our memory last time. I kind of want something different. So I'm going to try... Because we had exploring death last time was our last one. Observing family. Even more interesting. Okay. I feel like we've also rolled that for an item last time. We keep getting a lot of observing. We'll try one more. If nothing speaks to us, then we'll just go with it. But I feel like we've gotten explored and observed. And I'd like to see some more of these evocative terms we got going on. Search. Kind of the same thing for search. Kind of the same things for observe. But, you know, I kind of like search since it's a bit more active than observe. So, persuasion of loyalty, search of family. Okay. So, these are sort of the two memories that we, unfortunately, are going to... The Duragrim has to have leave him due to the witch's magic. So, in my mind, the last thing that Duergrim saw was, axe gun in hand. He had just... Oh, actually, no. When the last battle had happened, he was actually using an item that he found in the ruins, which was like a rod that helped him levitate stones into, like, defensive positions. And he'd actually raised one of the stones before his body to help it absorb some of the demon's flames before flinging the stone directly into the demon's face and cracking it wide open. And so the sort of last thing he saw was this squadron of hell-sworn dwarves, rush at him through the flames, blades held high. And he was looking over towards the other dwarves, the refugees that they were assailing, and gave them a spirited but, sort of crestfallen, "Fly, you fools!" trying to get them out of here. And of course, the axe fell, and everything went dark for Duergrim. So I imagine that we're probably just suspended in this infinite darkness for some time. This dreamless sleep. This is probably not an experience that is entirely unknown to us. I can't imagine that in the hundreds of years of demon slaying, this is not the first time that we've fallen in battle, but every time it still feels alien, as we are sort of more separated from our internal self. And even though we walk around in a state of utter cold, right? Our being a dead soul, trapped in this like husk, I think there's an even more pervasive feeling of frost at our fingertips, but we don't see anything. We don't see our physical form. We're just feeling the sort of facsimile of our body in this like void. And I think as we are sort of drifting through this timeless darkness, we hear a sound in the distance. And it almost sounds like the throng of like a hammer upon steel. And as we turn our heads, or what we believe to be our heads, we see two stone doors that very much resemble the massive sort of well-hewn, stone-crafted portals that we would use to travel throughout or keep when we were alive. That's one thing about Duergrim, is that he used to be a noble before he was exiled wrongfully. Speaking of wrongfully exiled, if we go back to our quest, a persuasion of loyalty and a search of family. Okay, so what I think happens is we sort of, because we are separated from our consciousness, right? We don't necessarily perceive. There's that idea that time happens all simultaneously, and we're only seeing like a linear version of it, right? So I think if we were to like use a sort of cinematic camera view, there are sort of two Duergrims that exist simultaneously in this moment, right? And they are both looking at a different door that is within this infinite blackness. These are two simultaneous occurrences of moments in the past felt at the exact same time. And, behind the one door, we sort of hear the throng of this hammer, and on the other side, a search of family. We can hear like a voice, like a distant voice, a familiar voice calling, right? And at the exact same moment, our big, meaty mitts, gloved mitts, reach down and press against the front of these stone doors, and they each open up into two entirely separate scenes, right? And on the one hand, we're entering a sort of dimly lit by firelight forge room, right? There are ancestral dwarven armaments which are emplaced on the walls. There are like bas-relief cuttings of parables and scenes from like dwarven lore etched into the stone. And we see one sort of well-muscled figure in the distance, hammering away at something on the forge top, right? And then the second door, we are met with mostly darkness. We can only see, well, besides our natural dwarf sight, which probably cuts through a lot of the shadow, we're probably only seeing, a few, draw feet distance in front of us, and it is mostly just like unworked, jagged stone tunnels, right? And we're hearing a voice, a familiar voice, calling throughout them. And oh man, I'm having an idea. Okay. As we're walking, our eyes shift, both of Durugrim's eyes, on the figure in question. And they are both the same person at different points in time, right? On the one hand, in the forge room, we're seeing our brother, Grokleem. Our brother who, in our lore, in our established lore of Durugrim, eventually betrays us, right? It's part of the reason we get exiled. But at this time in Durugrim's life and the relationship with Grokleem, things have not fallen to such dark tidings quite yet. And we see, what does Grokleem look like? We do have a generator for such things. Roll a new character, I believe. We have a whole bunch of, like, descriptors. Yeah, look at all these things. We got tons of stuff. Okay, let's do a d12, a 4, solid and sturdy. Okay. We got hair, 8, a pixie cut. I'm imagining like one of those really like bad like the old friar like haircuts. Oh, that's hilarious. And what do we have here in terms of appearance? We have 3, rugged, which makes sense. He's by the forge. Okay. So I'm going to actually move this up a little bit. So we have Grokleem. So we have a sturdy built, rugged appearance. We'll say, yeah, perhaps it's like a very short kempt beard with like this sort of like almost like very blunt, almost like bowl cut kind of thing. Like very short, to keep it all away from the fires, to keep it all away from the forge tops. So like the short beard, blunted hair. Yeah, perfect. So we see, we're hearing a voice calling from us in the past, and we're watching Grokleem hammer in the future, right? These two scenes unfolding simultaneously before us. And we now know... We'll visit the child first. We are small. We are not... We are young as well. This memory is happening in our past. And as we're walking through the darkness, we're hearing a voice call to us, and we are shaking, and we're not exactly running away from the voice, but we are almost like hiding from it. We do not want to be found. And our body feels a bit spongy, and our body feels a bit worn and tired. And eventually, we come across, or I should say, we are discovered by a young Grokleem, which we can tell by probably a very similar haircut, a terrible haircut, but without the beard. And Grokleem, like, stares at us with sort of, like, mouth agape, and sort of walks over like, Durugrim. Oh, Durugrim, I'm so sorry, and like sort of leans down, and we sort of like reflexively peel back. It's like, don't touch us, you know, like we're like we're shying away. And Grockleem like obeys the request. And we're sort of like huddled down against a stone, shaking. And Grockleem then like takes a seat sort of across from us, still within our eyesight, but kind of giving us a respectable distance, and says, "I'm sorry about what happened with Dad. It wasn't right of him to do what he did. He was mad, but it wasn't right to." And like, you know, we sort of like hold our arm. There's like a bit of a bruise there, because we established earlier that Duragrim and his father had like a really rough relationship that was sort of being repaired in their old age, but not before Duragrim's father's passing from the funeral. He's just got a bad temper, and the courts have been awful to him lately, and you know, we sort of like sneer, and we sort of shift our weight away from Grockleem. We say, "It still doesn't make it right." And he says, I know it's not right. I'm not apologizing for him. I just want you to know that it's not going to do any good hiding out here in a cave. You're not going to get better, and he's not going to get any happier. He already feels mighty bad. You should see him. He's been sulking for hours. And, you know, Duragrim, like, kind of looks towards, like, out of the side of his eye. Sulking, you say? Aye, sulking, like, mad. You don't have to forgive him now, but just come home at least. Let him start to mend things on his own time. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you can talk it through. I'll help anyway. I'll stand by, stand watch. And Duragrim sort of like weighs his options. At this point, we're so young. Like, obviously we just ran away in a fit of like childish rebellion. There's no way we could survive, like, just out in the caverns all by ourselves. This was very much a foolhardy endeavor on our behalf. Not that it was unjustified. But, you know, I think we are starting to realize the error of our ways. At least our half of the interaction with our family. And Duragrim, like, shifts unsteadily to his feet, and says, I hate him, Grockleem. He's a mean bore of a man. I know he's got much power and he's got a lot on his shoulders, but that gives him no reason. And Grockleem, like, walks forward and puts his, like, hands on our shoulders and says, I know, Duragrim, I know. He's from a different time. Grandad was no better. They all weren't any better, all of them. It's up to us to be the better men, right? We have to make that choice. No one can do it for us. And, you know, I think Duragrim starts, like, sniffling a little bit, sort of understanding the sudden weight that he has to bear at such a young age. He's like the heir, one of the heirs to a great house, to a man who is having a very bad time enduring that weight himself, and these things tend to be cyclical. He doesn't want to live that through. But I mean, it's a lot you have to absorb in these moments. And I think at that point, Duragrim finally sort of like relents and lets himself be embraced by his brother. And they sort of hold each other for a moment there. And Grockleem just sort of gives him a moment of quietude and sobs a little bit into his tunic. And then says, all right, he'll probably be getting tired and going to bed soon. We can sneak back in and get some food. Maybe you can avoid him for the night. And Duragrim sort of like nods into his chest and says, I'd like that a lot. And they sort of turn around and begin to walk through the dark passageways together back towards the Fell Deep Keep, right? Fast forward to the second memory, which is a persuasion of loyalty. I think we're approaching now. We played with the idea before that his father was a mean, ornery son of a gun, but in his will and testament to Duragrim, admitted a lot of his wronghoods and his faults, and said that he wrongfully had done a lot of these things, because he wanted to like forge his sons into like, you know, strong rulers, and he realized that he did it the wrong way, but he was too short-sighted to see it at the time. I want to play with the idea because we also have to set up the fact that Grokleem betrays Duragrim. So what if Duragrim is actually the younger of the siblings? Which also kind of plays into the feeling of the last scene. Grokleem has already lived through some of their father's ruggedness and roughness a couple years before Duragrim, right? But Duragrim is the one in which is titled and deeded as the head of the house upon their father's passing, right? Because despite Grokleem's best efforts, Duragrim and the offenses that were brought upon Duragrim, and probably Grokleem to an extent, in their father's eyes, Duragrim was like the one who would bring their glory to their house. And there's also something to be said about the fact that Duragrim, and we don't know much about Grokleem's history yet. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But we know that Duragrim is married. We know that Duragrim has a child. So even though he was younger, we can maybe assume that perhaps he was making bigger moves in court, that he was forging alliances with other houses, he was producing heirs to continue on the Fell Deep like lineage. Whereas Grokleem, maybe not, and that could be maybe Grokleem went a different way in life. And so I think persuasion of loyalty, I think what we see is we're entering this forge, right? And now we're staring at a much older Grokleem, this sort of rugged, sturdy, hammering away, forging some, you know, great dwarven work. And Duragrim, you know, stands in the doorway for a moment, and just sort of like soundlessly announces his presence to his brother. And, you know, I don't even think Grokleem lifts his eyes up from the forge. Are you gonna close the door behind you? Or are you gonna let all that hot air out? And Duragrim shrugs his shoulders. Aye, you've been heard, and like pulls the door shut behind him. And then finally, I think Grokleem like raises his eyes. So, what brings you into my humble shop today, brother? And to this, Duragrim, he sort of senses the coldness and the aloofness and the hostility initially, and says, maybe this is very shortly after the bequeathing of the title had been handed down. And Duragrim sort of puts his arms out to his sides in this sort of what's the word I want to use? This peace-bearing gesture. Aye, Grokleem, please. Must so much venom be at the tip of your tongue when you see me? We're brothers. We're family. And Grokleem like just snorts as he bangs away on another a piece of metal. Aye, we're family. And that's all we are, ain't we? So far from each other we are now, even in our father's eyes. And, you know, Duragrim just like shakes his head. Grokleem, it matters not what Dad thought. He's gone. It's over. He's passed. And then Grokleem sort of like raises his head and like slams down his implement again. This time like is in frustration. It doesn't matter what he thought, does it? It doesn't matter that he thought you should be the head of House Feldeep, that you inherit the keep, and I am here to tend these fires as Forge Master. Not even second. I'm so far removed from the name of Feldeep's honor, I might as well be shot in a barrel and rolled down a slope. And Duergrim, shakes his head. You are talented at what you do, Grokleem. I'm sure that's all Dad had in mind. And then Grokleem just turns his back as he, like, throws one of the steaming hot metals, like, into a cold fire to, like, brandish it. Yeah, Father thought a lot of things, none of which were fortunate for me, I surmise. As he just, like, takes another piece of metal and begins to bang on it. I will live and die behind forge fires with no titles and no glory to my name, while you, youngest of the Feldeeps, why, you'll ascend to great heights, you'll do wondrous things, while I will live in your shadow as I lived in Dad's shadow. And just sort of like is going on this like big long monologue about how he's been aggrieved. And finally, Duergrim sort of raises a hand. No, you won't, Grokleem. As he sort of like reaches into the folds of his tunic and his cloak, and he produces a document and places it atop the forge, like one of the cold forges, and like slides it over towards his brother. And Grokleem stares at it sort of confusedly for a moment, weighing his options, and then looks back up to his brother. What be this paper you bring to me, Duergrim? And Duergrim nods and says, well, you can read. Take a look for yourself. And Grokleem extends a tentative hand, begins to unfurl it. Eyes scan down the pages, old dwarvish script on these sort of like yellowed parchments. And it is a redivision of the inheritance of the Feldeep estate, right? It is an amendment that Duergrim has made so that the brothers would be made equal parts of the estate. That his brother would be raised up from Forge Master and be allowed to hold court in the same step as Duergrim, even though their father had named him the head heir. And Grokleem just like is staring at this object. I think he wheels around in such a way that he knocks a lot of his tools off of his desk, sort of in confusion. Duergrim, you can't. I mean, the last words of Father were. This is. And Duergrim says, this is what is owed to you, Grokleem. We both know that our father was a bear. And although he wanted the best for us, as so he says, he did not deliver, and he did not deliver equally. It is not right. You are sure, as you are said, that it was not right what he did to us, splitting us up, splitting Feldeep up the way he did. I want to make it right. I want to make it right between us, and I want to bring you into this new era of prosperity with our family. Grokleem, join me, won't you? Sign the paper, accept the title, and we can run Feldeep together, as brothers, as we were meant to. And, it's like, also, like, reaches into the folds of his cloak and pushes across an inkwell. And Grokleem takes just a moment to think about it. I know not what to say, Duergrim. You need say nothing. Just sign your name. That's all you need to. And finally, Grokleem nods, signs the paper. And there's like tears in his eyes, which is hard to see with the sweat mingling on his brow. And then wordlessly like hands the paper over to Duergrim, and Duergrim, you know, folds up the parchments into the leather case and like slides it into his cloak. And after a moment, Grokleem says, "So it's done?" And Duergrim nods. "It's done." And there's like a big sigh of relief that comes off of Grokleem, and puts his hands against the forge as he begins to cry. We're almost having like a mirror of the first scene, right? Where now he is overcome with emotion over his father in a different way, and his family in a different way. And Duergrim is like the figure of strength. And Duergrim, you know, sort of smiles and opens his arms and like puts them over his brother's wide shoulders and says, "Come now. There's much to be done here, Grokleem, and you deserve to be a part of it now. You always did." And like Grokleem just sort of lets out like another sob and like embrace, like further, you know, clutches his brother and just says like, "Thank you, Duergrim. Thank you. I know not how to repay you." And we sort of have this juxtaposed scene of like the brothers holding an embrace as elder men, like sort of starting this new journey together as like heirs to their house, and this like subsequent scene of them holding each other as like young children and like wrestling with the problems of their family. Whoa, Undercover, thank you so much for the 2 months. You are always appreciated here in stream, my friend. And you see them like holding each other in these like 2 separate moments in time, right? And then the scenes begin to darken. And the same thing that happened when we lost our first memory, where Thrillrain and Throry sort of dissipate into these dusty, sandy sculptures. It's nice to feel appreciated. Well, look at you. Round of applause, Undercover. Feel that appreciation. I think the same thing happens. We kind of watch as like the lights darken, and our sight, like the cinematic camera, if you will, keeps panning further back and drawing back and like pulling back as we're getting smaller and smaller, like the figures of these 2 men at 2 points of their lives, as they continue to harden and shift into these broken sand sculptures that become lumps as they dissipate and like all shift down towards the bottom of the darkness until they're nothing but like distant mounds of dust so far away from us. And we're watching them like through the door, right? Now it's almost, we entered through 2 doors, but now our consciousness is merged as it's beginning to like fall away. So we're watching from like the one door, right? And as our vision kind of pulls back until that the dust of what once was is almost done, the door slams in front of our face, and as it slams, Duergrim, now the aged undead remnant, sits up in a cold sweat, somewhere far from his recollection, as he is now reborn with less of himself that he once was. So yeah, that was pretty me when I wake up thirsty, says Undercover. Yeah, do you always have like haunting dreams of your past selves dissipating into dust too whenever you whenever you wake up thirsty? Because if so, I'm very sorry. That seems like quite the predicament. So yeah, I think that's how we're gonna start the story. Is him being resurrected and losing fundamental, and there's that same feeling too where we don't know what we lost, right? We don't remember what is gone, so we just wake up in this cold sweat and we feel this like vacuous hole in our soul, I guess, too, now. And we feel lighter, but not like in the sense of we feel lighter as in like we're alleviated something. We feel lighter as though like almost like wind moves through us in a new way. Now we feel hollow. We are losing touch of our for lack of a better word, our humanity, right? We're dwarves, but we're losing a sense of our innate self, and we're becoming more numb and distant to the mortal realms as we understand them. So let's figure out where Duragrim is waking up. Since how I imagine resurrection works with the Sisters of the Eclipse is our physical body dies, right? But I don't think we just sit there, our corpse lies where it was dead. Because if that were the case, then, you know, demons and other things could, like, mess with our corpse while we were in the process of resurrection, and then we probably wouldn't have the sustained life that we do, right? Which the Sisters of the Eclipse don't want. They want their tools, their warriors, to be able to be almost an infinite resource until their minds finally shatter, right? So I imagine it's almost like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, like, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine moment, where, like, the blades hit us and, like, rend through our flesh, and in that moment, like, we sort of dissipate into, like, dust and, like, cold smoke, and then over some period of time, our body reconstitutes somewhere distant, somewhere safe. Safe in this world, right? What does that even mean? But somewhere where we can become whole again and continue to quest in the name of the sisters. So let's figure out where the hell we are. We'll pull up our, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I always have such a hard time navigating through these little side menus on the PDF, which I have no idea why. They all seem very well marked. Journey and Travel, I think, is the one I want. One of them has, like, a generator for locations, which is what I'm looking for. Journey events. We have events. We have change location. There we go. Right? Oh no, this is change location in battle. I'm so bad. All right, let me type this. What if I type in location? Let's see. Loot locations. Oh, there we go. See, I knew it's somewhere. Where is this? This is page 49. Am I gonna ever remember that? Somewhere, it's above human guilds. Interesting. So it's by village and locations. There we go. I don't know why that's so hard for me to find. All right. So let's roll to see where we wake up. We wake up. Would it make sense that we resurrect somewhere populated? No, probably not. The Sisters of the Eclipse aren't really trusted anywhere. So it'd be weird if they had, like, idols or things that, like, yeah, they probably just resurrect somewhere in the wilderness. So let's see, we'll go 1, 2 for this one, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got a 1, and let's roll for 12. Oh, a Forgotten. Okay. The Forgotten Peaks. Ooh. Ooh, that one is rife with Forgotten Peaks. Okay. So what does Forgotten Peaks sound like to me? I feel like because we get resurrected by the Sisters of the Eclipse, they probably have, like, these... Because we're not the only servants. We're not the only remnants that exist, right? And so they probably have to have, like, some sort of system by which that their warriors can, like, return to their service. So I imagine, like, we wake up, we're like, and we sit up, and a big, like, wave of dirt, like, falls off of our chest, and we look, and we are, like, in a shallow grave, you know? And as we, like, turn our heads behind us, we can see that there is a great stone monument that is rising up, and it is carved in the same sort of visage as, like, it's obviously of dwarven make, but it sort of resembles one of the hooded witch-like figures of the Sisters of the Eclipse, and there's probably, like, you know, their hands are like forward, and there's, you know, things thrown like in the offering bowl, like bones and herbs, which are used to brew the potions that the remnants use, and you know, and probably honestly like what's the word, scavenged parts of like demonic prey, since that's also used in their rites, and you know, to like make these poultices. And surrounding this monument are other shallow graves, right? Some of which have mounds on them, like loose dirt, as if there's maybe a body under there that is still reconstituting and is like about to be born again, you know, soon enough. And then some of the dirt which is already upturned, there's like hollow holes in the earth where remnants like us have been reawakened to serve again. And so we sit up and we look around and we see the monument behind us, and we look forward and we are at the top of a great forgotten peak. So when I hear forgotten, I'm thinking like they have to put these monuments, these resurrection places, somewhere far away, right? Maybe that's interesting. Maybe I'm tempted to say maybe this is like maybe the only one. There might be others, but I like that it's out of the way, right? They have to raise these monuments someplace where people won't mess with them, where they won't like defile the monuments, and they won't mess with the graves. So they have to put them in these very like far out of the way places. So like we look down and we are at the precipice of this like mountain, just made of stacked upon scorched stones. The sky above our heads is dusty and gray, and a red sun is peeking through as ash and ember constantly falls from the sky. And in the distance, we can see the churning volcanic maw that is Mount Baram, the epicenter of like the demonic incursion in the Dwarflands. And you know, we blink our eyes a couple times, getting readjusted to life. We take a few deep breaths. Oh yeah. That never gets easier, does it? As we sort of like, you know, re-prepare ourselves. So if I'm not mistaken, when we were on our last journey, we rolled for 2 events to take place, and then we got in our demon fight that killed us, unfortunately. But I feel like now we've probably been whisked away to a place that is safe, but not necessarily, what's the word? Convenient, right? So if I think the max amount of events that we can get as we are traveling is 3, right? Explore and travel. Yeah, it would be here, right? Journey events. Yeah, there are 3 events on your journey. So I feel like that's probably what happens. Like, we lose time, we lose ground. We're back to 3 events on our journey, which is unfortunate, but, I mean, you know, we have to pay some sort of penance for the infinite life that we have. So 3 events moving forward. Ba-ba-da-bum. And then we'll do that. All right, so the first thing that I want to do, I would like to... Oh, wait. Journeying allows you to figure out what are the key events here worth expanding on when you travel. The land is vast. To find out what are the key events in the journey, roll die between a d4 and d12 based on how far the final destination... Oh, yeah, we did that. Oh, my spine. Roll your current journey die. That's for the events. Okay, before we do that, however, though, I would like to take some time to root around in our current dream of glory is to reach the temple. I would like to root around a little bit in our... Oh, this is gone. We depleted it. I don't know if this is something that goes away. I'll have to look at the inventory rules again. I'll say depleted down here. Maybe we can hold on to it until such a time that we refill it. We'll see. This was the last item that we found. But speaking of items that we found, I would maybe like to take a little look around our resurrection point and see if maybe the Sisters of the Eclipse left anything for their servants for when they come to. So if I'm not mistaken, we take a look at our skills. We have a loot die, which is currently a D10, since we've technically rested since we've been reborn, right? So it starts at a D12. The Breathless system in play, for all of you that you're seeing right now, is all based around the concept is that you start with a certain amount of die that are certain die values, and they will deplete over time as you use them for various actions. And then it's kind of your responsibility then to either rest or catch your breath is one of the mechanics that allows you to reset your die rolls to get the most effectiveness back out of your character, right? It's a very elegant system. I'm really enjoying it so far. So if we have a D12 as our base die, and we need to now move down to a D10, we first roll that D12 and interpret our results. We get a 1. Oh, that's rough. Okay. Which means we're gonna get an item, I think, with one use. I think those are what? Lasting items. There's a difference between lasting. I think if we find the item, it is always like a depletable item. Yeah, loot. Oh wait, there's trouble ahead. If I roll a 1, there's trouble ahead. I literally just got resurrected. What could possibly be happening? Trouble ahead at the forgotten peak. Jeez. Okay. Sure. Oh, Beans, I can't feed you. I don't have enough points. Undercover, what were you doing? Beans is such a hungry boy. Alright, let's see what happens with our trouble ahead. Jeez. I'm gonna roll some sparks. So we have a 6 and a 4. We have a destroyed. Interesting. Let me go back to my quest. 3 events moving forward. So on our loot, we have trouble ahead. And then we have a destroyed. Destroyed. Oh, there we go. Volin. Someone's got to feed the beans. The beans needs it. Thank you so much. Beans appreciates it. Look, even tells you. Let's roll another 2d6. Are you kidding me? Another 6 and a 4? No way. That's wild. Destroyed resilience. You know what? I feel like we rolled resilience before, too. Why do I keep... Wow. I put a 5 there? How did I... And a capital R? And a 3? What am I doing? I cannot type. I'm going to roll just to see if I get anything more interesting. A 2 and a 6. Literally just inverted. No, I think destroyed resilience is the one to go with. Destroyed resilience. That kind of makes me think that perhaps we see, because resilience, I'm thinking, is their ability to resurrect, right? And if it's destroyed, it kind of feels like maybe someone or something here has discovered this rebirthing grounds and has done something to hamper it or tarnish it in some way, right? And so perhaps we wake up, we look around, we're trying to scrounge around to see if we can find anything of use that the sisters might have left us. And that's when we finally sort of take a look at the statue proper, and we can see that it looks like it has been what's the word? Vandalized. Like it looks as though large gouges of the stone have been carved out from underneath of it, and it looks as though that it has been painted with sort of fiendish sigils, perhaps in blood. Well, not blood, because they have black like ichor, right? They have like this oily paste. The demons do at any rate. So yeah, like it's been defiled. It's been defaced. And we get the sense now that this place is not safe. That kind of makes me want to roll a complication. Because yeah, there's something about this place that is wrong. So let's see. If we look at the complications, what does this mean for us? We can make this either mechanical based or fiction based. Take a lower hand, you have the upper hand. I kind of like this idea that you take a hit because it's been defiled, right? So if I go back to Durgrim's stats, my base health is normally 8, but when I resurrect, right, because I was assailed by all these like fell dwarf, fell, my last name is Fell, these demon dwarf weapons, right? I'm used to like waking up and maybe having a few scars, but like feeling, pretty functional. As I'm like looking at this defaced and defiled statue, I feel like a pang, like on my shoulder, right? And I like, ugh, what in all the names of the lords of the stone, as I swear. And like I like tilt my head, and like there is still a yawning like wound that is not fully stitched over in my flesh, right? It's like our ability to be fully mended and fully resurrect in this place has been corrupted in some way, because like some sort of demonic influence has found it and tarnished it. And we don't bleed anymore. We talked about how we sort of feel like hollow, like when we're stabbed, it's kind of like puncturing a leather bag, right? But there is still like a gaping wound in like our cobalt flesh, and we sort of like try to hold it for a second and just sort of rock back and forth and like, aye, it'll pass, Durgrim. It'll pass. And just like takes a little extra time to get our bearings and make sure that we are battle ready and travel ready, more importantly. So yeah, interesting. Trouble ahead. And that also fits into the idea that that it is destroyed resilience, right? Like our resilience is actually being, our ability to be resilient is being destroyed, is being lessened over time, which is interesting. I like it. Okay, so Durgrim's going to take some extra time to get his bearings, to fully reconstitute from the corrupted resurrection grounds on the Forgotten Peaks, which means he's going to have to do some traveling from the mountains above to get to where he's going. So we're going to have to roll some events. Since now we know we're far away, we need 3. I'm going to go back to the village section, right? That was right above where the locations were, yeah. Okay. Oh no, the first thing I want to do, I'm such a liar. I'm a liar! I want to go to journey events. I want to roll that first to see what's happening. So the first thing, we roll our current journey die and interpret the results. So our journey die is actually still pretty high right now. It is a D12, so we're going to mark it down to a D10. And I'm going to roll it. Ba-ba-ba-bum. Ooh, a 10 on the nose. The pass is clear, and your travels are going as they should. So, despite the fact that we suffer a little overlong from the corruption of the demons on our resurrection grounds, we begin to trudge down the mountainside. We pull our cloak tighter to our body. We load up our axe gun, and we take a few more bits of, what's the word? Ingredients from the offering bowl to prepare new potions. And we set out without much hindrance. It's, of course, a rocky climb, but we are dwarf-blooded, so it's in our nature to be able to navigate the stones rather easily. Not so much the dust storms, the embers, that gives us a little bit more resistance, especially from this high up. But we managed to navigate without too much additional issue. The path is clear. So that was event 1. Or I should say the lack of an event. So, event 1, safe travels. Event 2. What happens to us here? So now, we have to roll. Let's go back to our deuterogram. Oh, actually, I rolled a d10, even though I should have rolled a d12, because it goes down a step, but that's fine. Because it still would have had the same result. A d12 is a 10 on a d12 is still a 5+ for the result, so we're fine there. But now we should be rolling a true d10 to resolve what happens on this leg of the journey. And now our journey die is a d8. And I'm just realizing I put that under my loot die. So I'm going to put that there. Perfect. And I'm going to, I guess there's nothing stopping me from like looting the same place twice, other than the fact that the die goes down. We'll see. I'll let it be for now. I guess technically I could have tried to loot the resurrection ground again, because I found something spooky but didn't find an item. You know what? Let's do it. Let's see. We can retcon that I spent a little bit more time there. Okay, trouble ahead. So I think at this point there's something that's gonna happen to us, right? Let's see what happens with our event. We're gonna roll d10, which is a 9, which is technically safe travels, but I also now have trouble ahead from the item. So I think we're gonna birth a complication of some kind. I think that's about a fair assessment. I'm not gonna try and get any more out of that location, because apparently it truly is cursed. I joked that it was touched by demons, but every time we've tried to loot it, we've literally pulled like the worst possible event. So there's safe travels, but there's trouble ahead. So to me that reads as like a minor inconvenience, or a minor, what do you call it? Complication? Yeah. Let's see. Mechanical base was an item. You step down your item twice. You step down your skill twice. Fiction based. If you were quick. Okay, let's say we're quick, because we're traveling, right? That seems to make sense. So we're gonna roll a d8 and see what comes up. We got an 8. We missed an important detail. Interesting. Missed an important detail. And what is the important detail that we missed? See, oh man, I just love these tables. I love messing with these tables and like figuring out what's going wrong with me. What is like the next terrible thing that is going on. I'm gonna roll twice. I'm gonna go bum 5 and a 4. So we got another persuade. I'm rolling the same things tonight. I'm gonna roll again just because I want something different. 1 5. Oh, pursue. Oh my god, of course. Yeah, pursued. So it sounds like I'm being hunted by something. Pursued. Oh, which makes sense because like the demons were. Oh no, this is bad. Okay, so I'm gonna roll another 2d6. A 3 and a 5. Ooh, pursued by hope? What's 5 and a 3? Pursued by greed. I kind of like inverting the 5 and the 3 and say pursued by greed. Pursued by greed. Kind of. So I think what we don't notice is that there is a dark shadow that follows us down the mountain. We don't know what it is yet. But there is some force, whether it be corporeal, whether it be incorporeal, whether it be mortal, whether it be demon. There is something that is pursuing us, and it is motivated by greed. Which that is going to hang over my head for a little bit, and then we'll see what happens here. So this is our final event. Let's take a look here. Back at our roll tables. Let's go back to the village section, journey events. Here we go. And so now we're down a step. We're rolling a D8 now, so it's gonna go down to a D6. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So this is the last time we roll a... Yeah, we rolled a D12, then a D10, then now rolling a D8. Wow, another 8. We actually, despite the fact that we picked up someone on our trail, we remain unseen. We're unassailed by demons at the very least. Alright, so let's go back to... So that means we reach the Celestial Temple, which was actually my dream of glory. So there's going to be a lot of things to trigger right here. The first thing that we want to do is we want to go to our quest. We want to say that safe travels, that we are still pursued. Still pursued. Okay. And gosh, I feel like it has to be a demon of some kind, or at least an allegiance. Why would it be stalking the... There's so many questions. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to Grokleem, or sorry, Duergrim, and you can see that under my dream of glory, it was to reach the temple. I have fulfilled all 3 of my journey die, which means I have come here. So I think what my next glory should be is we're here for the burning band, but I want to leave this kind of open. I'm going to say we recover a dwarven artifact, because that kind of gives us a chance to maybe level up again. That's not directly tied to the burning band, but you know, it's vague enough that we can get maybe an extra level up here and there. But speaking of level ups, we do need to roll for an advancement, which is exciting. An advancement. There's a little table for them. Or at least there should be. There we go. So yeah, you can see here, you roll a d20, and then depending on what you get, you can upgrade your character. So let's go here. I'm going to roll this d20. I got an 18. I design a new ability, or I can unlock a new ability, because I'd say design and unlock are close enough that I would do one or the other. Ooh, that's exciting. I want a new ability. Okay. So what happens with us? Let's take a look at all of the abilities that we could have. Ability. So in this game, typically the abilities are restricted by your class, but because I'm playing solo, I'm allowing myself to pick whatever I want. Whatever I feel is right. The first ability that I picked was from Alchemist. I picked the ability to brew a potion and drink it for a special effect, which is our Farsight potion. That is what's been helping us fight demons mostly. So there were a couple I remember when I was initially reading through here that I was interested in. Sorcerer has Seer. You may glimpse into the future to gain insight on a situation. Roll a d10. On a 1 to 2, you gain vague and confusing messages. On a 3 to 4, you gain a clear but limited insight. On 5+, you gain a complete and useful understanding. Costs to energy. Oh, also, RP gave me some more clarity on how the energy system works, which apparently is going to be reworded in the final document. Watching this playtest, energy isn't so much a stat as it is like a cost that you pay in die steps. So if it says cost to energy, you're actually you're ticking down 2 of the die that are normally associated with like your character's stats. So you can keep doing them so long as you have die rolls to reduce, and then from there you'll actually have to either rest or catch your breath. Seer, I think, is in the running. I like the ability, since we have the Farsight potion, that maybe we drink it and we're also able to get like an insight into the future, right? That like is very on brand with our potion drinking things. Scoundrel has some stealth stuff. When sneaking somewhere you should not be. Roll with an excellent position. I mean, sneaking is also good. Killer, you may try to instantly kill someone provided they don't know where you are. It isn't too big of an opposition, and you are provided with an opportunity. Roll a d10. You missed your shot and your location is compromised. 3 to 4, you killed them, but your location is compromised. On a 5+, you kill them and sneak back into the shadows. That's pretty good. I mean, I do have a gun, so I'm kind of loud, but like that's still... I'm playing solo. The ability to like strategically pick off enemies sounds like very useful. And I think Strider also maybe has some good ones for us, because it's about ranged attacks. When looking for a way through unfamiliar terrain, roll with a good position. We're doing pretty good on traveling so far. When you are throwing or shooting something that requires high precision, you may roll with excellent position. And that would be good for us, but we already have the Farsight potion, which kind of does the same thing for as long as the potion is active. This, of course, won't cost us a memory, which is like a whole other narrative consequence. But the effect is kind of redundant, so maybe not. You may look for a weak point in someone or something's defense. Roll a d10. On a 1 to 2, there are no weak points. On a 3 to 4, you find a weak point, and future rolls can be done with good position. On a 5+, you find multiple weak points, and future rolls can be done with an excellent position. Costs to energy. I kind of like that as well. Although this, once again, has to do with positions as opposed to actually increasing our damage or things like that. I kind of wish that... Well, I mean, I guess I could design an ability that allows me to increase my damage output versus certain enemies. Like, on a roll d10, on 1 to 2, there are no weak points. On a 3 to 4, you find a weak point, and future rolls can be done with a good position and, like, +1 to damage. On a 5+, you find multiple weak points, and future rolls can be done with excellent position and 2 damage, maybe. I don't think I'm going to pick anything from Druid. That just doesn't make sense for Durgrim's character. Soldier kind of makes sense. Flashback. You may call for a flashback to introduce a new truth in the fiction where you planned in the past for something happening in this moment. Oh, that's kind of cool. Roll a d10. Determine how well your flashback scene went. The plan partially works, but there's a cost. Your plan partially works, but there's no cost. Your plan works perfectly. That's interesting. Durgrim is supposed to be kind of, what's the word, resourceful. I'm kind of feeling like maybe doing the spotter ability, but with a damage bonus. Or the scoundrel ability that allows for like stealth kills. But like, yeah, I have a gun, so I'm kind of loud. I feel like maybe it's spotter. I feel like I'm gonna split the difference between choosing an ability and modifying an ability. I'm gonna go with Especially because, as we've learned from our previous fight, if we draw aggro from multiple enemies, like, it's very easy to die. And so, being able to maximize our damage output, because we can only ever at most deal 3 damage, and some of the enemies have, like, 21 health or something wild at a time, I think is going to be ideal. So yeah, let's go with Strider. Let's copy Spotter. And let's open up our notebook. And let's go to abilities. I'm going to copy this. Oh, what is this? 72. 48. Oh god, that's too much. That's too much. And this was like, what, 38? Or the next one down, 36. Yeah, I think that's much more manageable. And good position. Or +1 damage. And/or +1 damage? I don't know. I'll say and/or. On a 5 or plus, you find multiple weak points and can be done with excellent position. Because we already know that enemies can do attacks that increase damage. The bandits had an ability that increased damage if they attacked as a group. So let's give ourselves an ability that does extra damage. Why not? You know, we get to design it. I like it. I like the idea of hurting our enemies more. So, part Alchemist, part Strider, which I think makes sense for Duergrim's character so far. Good news is we have found where we need to go. So, we found the temple. Okay. So there's a couple things we know about the temple. We know that underneath it are the caves where the entrance to Breathless Bastion is. We know that it's partially collapsing into the tunnels. We know the tunnels are infested with demons. There's a lot that could be happening here. What I would like to do, I would like to take a look at details. Yeah, I would maybe like to take a look at the appearance. I'd like to maybe roll an appearance thing and kind of interpret it for the temple for exotic. Ooh. Okay. It wouldn't be exotic to us because, like, we are of the old dwarf lineage. We would have been around here when the temple still stood. But perhaps it is strange to us now because very much like in the same way that they have defaced the sister statue, perhaps it's kind of the same deal where, you know, it's partially sunken into the earth, but now they have you can see that there are like scorch marks along the stone, like from demon's fire. So it's like melted the stones. There's claw marks that have like torn out chunks of the statues. There are blackened ichor runes of demon blood and probably a mingling of mortal blood, right? Painted across the stones. I imagine there are probably like grisly totems of you know, dwarven mortal sacrifices and like unfortunate travelers who have found their way here, you know, arranged out front. So I think it is exotic in the way that it has almost been recontextualized. It's been converted into like this desecrated place where it was once like a hollowed land. When I think about what the temple, like, I haven't really given much thought as to, like, what, like, the dwarven religion would be, but we played a little bit with the idea in the funeral that, that they had this idea about, like, being reincarnated, like, through the stone, and, like, they threw their father's casket into, like, this endless, bottomless, like, chasm. I kind of like the idea that they sort of venerate just... that they don't really have like a particular like god deity or you know, that it's almost like animistic. It's like the stone, it's like the land itself. So perhaps the statues aren't so much like religious figures as in like celestial figures, although it is a celestial. I'm just using that as like a keyword for a synonymized with, you know, like a religious practice. In celestial, that's usually angels and like D&D and stuff. But perhaps it's more along the lines of they are like these ancient stone tenders, right? They are like the stone speakers. They are the ones who could first hear the words rumbling throughout the deep. They were like the prophets of the stone. That sounds very evocative, right? Like they're the prophets of the stone. And perhaps the temple itself is sort of carved in such a way that it almost resembles mountain peaks, right? Because we're on the surface. So whereas underground, you'd probably have like sects of the religion that are like speaking to the depths and the caves and you know, the reincarnated. It's almost like the peaks, like the mountains, represent like dwarven life manifesting on the surface, right? These like great tombstones that represent the people rising together to form a collective, which then gets hollowed out and becomes the homes of like the next generation of dwarf kind, right? So perhaps that is sort of what we're witnessing here. It's like the temple might actually be very, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't want to say that it's not like worked stone, because it would be, because dwarves are amazing stone crafters, but perhaps like the central tower, like the central building of the temple is really just sort of like a large peak. It's almost like a mountain which is in the process of growth, and then around it, you know, are these like grand walls and like these stylized courtyards and these carvings of like the stone prophets, all stuff all around it, right? Which would have been like the perimeter that houses the main center of worship here. But of course, since in the ages past, it has collapsed. It has been desecrated. It has fallen out of favor, and now it is like partially collapsing like into the earth. And we can probably see smoke rising up from the cracks in the floor, and in the dirt, I should say, in the stone. And there's sort of like this faint orangish red ember light, you know, from deep within those crevices, hinting at the fires of the fiends below, as this place has been almost entirely perverted from its original intent. So I'm gonna say that this place doesn't sound super inviting. I imagine that there are probably demons afoot. But we have to get in there so we can get down into the depths. So let's see what we can do about sneaking into this place. I'm just gonna go to my game info here. I'm gonna go to my Duragrim stats. So I imagine this is probably gonna be a dexterity test. Of some kind, just to see if we can get past these perimeters and get inside. Oh, there's also a system for generating like dungeons and stuff in here, which is pretty exciting. So we're definitely gonna take a look at that. But I think for the moment, we're just gonna see if we can actually get past, you know, this sort of like volcanic, rocky death field, which has become the outskirts of the temple. If we can even get inside without any major complication or resistance, and then we'll see about being in there, right? So let's roll a d6. It's a 2. No, oh, sorry, not a d6, a d8. A 5, okay. Because it is now a d6 that we've stepped it down. So let's look at our checks. We got a 5. You greatly succeed. The higher result, the better. So I think, well, I mean, hey, we're having much better luck than we did last time with that last demon fight. I think, you know, we're sort of hidden behind, we're hidden behind a rocky outcropping on the outskirts of this decimated temple. And our back is like to the stone. We're looking around. We can probably hear like distant screeches like of like monsters in the distance. And like as fire like rumbles up from the crevices outside of the temple. But despite there's a feeling that we're being watched because we are being pursued by something. But we do not see immediately any hellspawn that are trying to accost us. So we you know, throw up our hood. We crouch down alongside another series of rocks, and we scurry forward towards the not the battlements per se, but the sort of the facade of the building, and we manage to sneak our way inside. So actually, let's take a look at the dungeon generation thing. This is actually one part of the system that I really wanted to mess with. Because I've never seen something like this before. And so I'm excited to play with it. Where would that be under? Move the spotlight, maybe locations? Oh, there's like a weather thing too that I keep forgetting about. I should play with that more. Oh, there's a threat generator? What? I need to use this more often. Okay, note to self, use the threat generator. Communities. Yeah, threats right here. Is it under the... There's one thing that I always keep clicking on in terms of the explore and travel that keeps coming up as the expedition. Yeah, dungeon expeditions. Dungeon expeditions allow you to discover what has been lost in the world and define what creeps in the dark. When you start an expedition, first assess what your goals are: treasure, glory, a monster, an opponent, knowledge, etc. Then create an actual physical expedition map by throwing a bunch of dice on a piece of paper to help guide your journey. Okay. So I do have some physical dice here, but it's gonna maybe be a little difficult to replicate that in the digital space unless... I have a draw tool on here, right? Oh, I do. Hell yeah, never mind. Forget I said anything. I have ideas. Okay, so yeah, so let's follow. So what is our goal? Our goal, I guess, is knowledge. Our goal is how do we get down into the demon caves, right? We know that the entrance is through the temple because that is what the sisters told us, but it's not so simple as we just enter the caves and we're there. We have to navigate our way to the true entrance. So that is our goal. I'm gonna keep a physical piece of paper here while I do this, but I'm gonna make notes on the drawn tab as well. So the first thing we do is roll a d4 on a piece of paper. Okay. So 3. Then roll the die that's one step above until you get a 5 or higher or reach the d12. Each point of interest represents a different point on the map. All right, so I'm going to roll a d6. I got a 2, which means now I will roll a d8. Is this an 8? I'm going to draw this once I'm done for those of you who are watching on the digital screen. I'm going to roll a d8. I got a 5. Okay, so... to recreate this here, I got a d4 here, d4. I have the, which was a 3 if that matters, we'll see. Then I have a d6, look at my writing, that's terrible, over here, which was a 2. And then I have a d8 over here. And the d8 is a 5, which stopped our journeying. So It's a small temple. I mean, I imagine a lot of it is collapsed in the days of its former glory. Look at the number on each and interpret the result as follows. On a 1 to 2, your presence is directly opposed. Okay. On a 3 to 4, your path is blocked by an obstacle. Oh, interesting. And then on a 5, you found your goal. Okay. So that means that I wish I could. Oh, text mode. There we go. All right. So that means this is an obstacle. This is opposed. And this is the goal. So the D8 is the portal into the. Well, maybe it's not a physical, maybe it's not like a magical portal, but it is the way down into the dark depths, right? It is the way into the caverns, into Breathless Bastion. So here we are. Okay. This is cool. I love this. Oh, on the fly dungeon generation. That is so sweet. That is such a cool idea. RP. I'm loving that. Quickly sketch out a map based on the physical location of the dice you roll. Draw lines to roughly group the points of interest based on their physical location and whether the die's results are even or odd. Okay. I have to reread that. I don't think I understood that section. Draw lines to roughly group the points of interest based on their physical location and whether the result is even or odd. So are they saying that odds link with odds and evens with evens? Because what I'm seeing here is a 3 and a 15, which are both odds. But I'm seeing the odd link. It's a little confusing to me. Because this is even. If they're odds, quickly sketch out a map based on the physical location of the dice you rolled. Draw lines to roughly group the points of interest based on their physical location and whether the die's result is even or odd. I'm not quite sure what that means. RP, hopefully when you watch this back, you can illuminate me. But here's what I'm going to interpret that as. I am going to say that, like, evens connect to odds and vice versa, right? And so what that means is that it would look something like this, right? Yeah, because even to odd, because there's a 3 and a 5 and a 2. So then what is our origin point of the dungeon? Look at the... I would assume it's probably the first one we rolled. So we'll say this is the first origin point. Okay. So basically, we enter through the obstacle. We head over to where we're going to be opposed in some way, shape, or form. And then we are going to end with our goal. Perfect. A real simple 3-room little dungeon setup. So I guess we have to discover what our obstacle is going to be first. Perhaps this is fiction-based obstacle. Let's take a look at... Let's take a look at our sparks. Let's let the sparks guide what our what our obstacle is. So we're gonna roll a couple d6. Bump, 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 bump. We're gonna do 4. So the first one is 4 and 1, which I think is a new combo for us. 4 and 1 is revenge. Okay. Revenge. And then a 5 and a 1 is... 5 and a 1 is sacrificed. Sacrificed revenge as a obstacle. Oh, I think I'm getting an idea. I think I'm getting an idea here. Okay, so if I go to my quest, I'm gonna go to Celestial Ruin. My obstacle text mode here, which I should probably make this a little bigger so everyone... Oh, do I even have the text tools here? Maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. Okay, so I'm gonna make another section. All right, so Ruins map. We're gonna make this back to home, right? Yeah. And we're gonna go back to 72. So an obstacle of sacrifice revenge. Now what I'm hearing in this instance, there is something that killed us before that would want revenge upon us, and it is a group of a group of hell-sworn dwarven loyalists, right? And sacrifice revenge. So what I'm hearing in my mind is that, so we sneak into the front, right? Oh, another thing I wanted to read too before we move forward. There was something about salvage, which seemed like it was valuable. Oh, this is part of the dungeon rules. Selling salvage allows you to get some coins. You depart yourself from items. Oh, okay, this is just like, if you find items, you could sell them. Okay, cool. Not what I thought would be in the dungeon section, but it makes sense. Okay. What I'm imagining in my mind is perhaps these the fell-sworn dwarves. I keep saying fell-sworn, but I'm fell deep, so they can't be fell. Otherwise, too many people are going to be falling. We're never going to remember who's who. These hell-sworn dwarves have gathered together, and they are in like a deep form of sort of communion with their demonic overlords, right? So perhaps there is sort of like a an effigy they've raised in like a chiseled black obsidian that, like, you know, has a ring of fire around it that is carved in sort of like this demonic visage, and there are the groups of dwarves all encircling it, and they are on their knees with their hands outstretched, and their heads are leaned back, and they're like I mentioned that they all had burning brands on their flesh somewhere to mark them as the loyalists, like the demonic influence. So perhaps like their arms are outraised and their heads are tilted back, and the brands on their body are like burning, and like perhaps like perhaps like there's a ring of fire around the effigy, right? And it's like creating these like long tendrils of flame all around the room, which are attached to their burning brands and like growing the size of the symbols across their body, and they're like twitching as they're being like further burnt and scarred, and they're sweating, but they're not stopping their supplicative, chants, ancient dwarvish mixed with like an infernal tongue, just sort of like easy, you know, sort of giving of themselves and like furthering their union with these evil powers. So in my mind, when I hear sacrifice revenge, and we probably can see, so this is sort of like their barracks, right? Okay, so because it's like their barracks, this is maybe like one of their the places where they resupply and they kit themselves out to find more runners and like dwarven survivors on the surface. You know, perhaps there is we can see ill-gotten gains, you know, spoils of their raids on the surface that are nearby. So it's giving us the opportunity to avoid the dwarves and also a reward if we want to sneak further in, right? Now, rather unfortunately for me, if I'm not mistaken, one of Duragrim's motivations is revenge. And he's also very moody. So, in my mind, this is probably not a fight that he is gonna back down from, right? Rather unfortunately, I don't think this is a fight that he's gonna back down from. These are traitors. These are... They are murderers. They literally murdered him. They are perverting the use of the old temples. There's just so many reasons for him to want to kill them that I don't think there's gonna be a way that he doesn't give it his damnedest. So what we're gonna do, let's go back here. Threats. There was a stat block I was using. I think it was the bandit stat block. The bandit group stat block? Group of bandits. Yeah, that's what I was using. Ooh, that's a small text right there. Okay. There we go. Let's make this white. Just to make it a little easier to see. Okay, and then, so this is what, 28. We'll mark this down to 28 as well. So we can... Man, all this text is so wild right now. Okay. Dudagrin. I kind of wish I took the murder skill now. I feel like that would have been very... came in handy here. Okay. A group, so they are in communion. We did successfully sneak in. So I think so far we are unseen. I'm thinking of like the layout of this place. There's because it's like sliding into the earth, there's like all this uneven and shattered stone. There might be like a stone, like an upturned rock that we could climb up to give ourselves like a really good vantage point, right? Because if we think about positions, right, we would normally be rolling at fair. But we're hidden, so I think we're rolling at good, right? But I think if we can get a high vantage point, we could probably roll twice and then take the highest result without relying on our potions, right? So I'm going to say right now our position is fair. Actually, no, our position is good because we are hidden. But if we can climb a nearby rock, we might be able to give ourselves a better position. Right? Because we can only really change positions as an action when we're in combat. If I'm not misremembering that. Otherwise, we kind of have to earn it through the use of abilities. So let's, yeah, pick a skill item. Okay, so I'm gonna look at Duergrim. I'm gonna say we're gonna use our strength because we are trying to climb one of the broken stones that are surrounding this like central audience chamber. Roll a d8. Okay, a 5. A 5's pretty good. A 5's pretty good. We roll for our check. You greatly succeed. The higher result, the better. Okay. So, Duergrim fell deep. We are gonna go back to the quest. So now we have an excellent position because we are hidden and we have the high ground. It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground! You are like a brother to me, Anakin! I loved you! And why don't we use our new ability? We can try it, right? Let's take a look at Duergrim. Ability. Spotter. You look for a weak point in someone or something's defense. Roll a d10. On a 1 to 2, there are no weak points. On a 3 to 4, you find... Okay, so I just need to roll a d10. Oh, and it costs 2 energy, though. So I have to reduce something by 2 to do this. What do I want to roll? To reduce something by 2 steps. Oh boy, I could also reduce my weapon down, but the weapon's probably one of the higher things I have right now. I'm probably gonna have to catch my breath after this. All right, I'm gonna reduce both my strength and my dexterity, right? Because I'm taking a long time. I've climbed this thing. As I knock over everything on my desk, I've climbed this high rock. I am setting up my shot. I'm like lying in wait. I'm like hoisting up this heavy rifle on a very precarious perch. It is taking everything within me to get a beat on these guys. I'm gonna roll my d10. Oh, a 2. That wasn't even worth it. Oh, it wasn't even worth it. I don't think, right? I don't think we get anything off a 2. God, I need to... Okay. Abilities. On a 1 to 10, there are no weak points. Okay. So that was a waste of 2 energy. We still have a good position, though. I'm not terribly mad about it, but it would have been nice to get the extra damage. Alright, so what I'm gonna do... I'm just gonna roll and try to moida these guys. So I have... I can't really use my dexterity for this because it's really low. I could use my weapon. That's probably my best bet. So let's mark this down to a D6. Or do I use my grit? Maybe I use my grit. The grit's so early though. But I mean, these guys did kill us. They literally murdered us. So yeah, perhaps we just go for broke. So we're gonna roll twice to take the highest result. 10 is very good. I'm gonna also put on some more exciting music. Okay, so first things first. We deal 3 hits right off the bat. We're gonna go here. So we're no longer hidden, but we still have the high ground, so we have good position. Yeah, okay, so I think what happens is we are lining up our shots. We're like looking for weaknesses in these soldiers. We're trying to find like loose parts of their armor, but this is like dwarven forge, demon reinforced black iron plate from like head to toe. This stuff is nigh impenetrable, you know, from a weapon of like similar quality and craftsmanship. But luckily, our axe gun is just as well made. It's from the old dwarven runesmiths, and it has been touched by the Sisters of the Eclipse. So it is a very efficient death-dealing instrument. As we like, you know, like ready it and close one eye. And under our breath, we sort of whisper to ourselves, "To the pits with ya, ya fire-hearted bastards." When we let like a shot rip, you know, into the air. One of the dwarves, you know, heads as they're like all communing. Some of them like turn around. One just absolutely explodes in just like a hail of red paste and clumped of haired flesh as the body slumps down to the ground, spilling red across the stones, which immediately begins to boil under the heat of all of the infernal energy of the area. All the other dwarf soldiers start looking amongst each other. "Someone's infiltrated the temple! Someone's here!" And they like look up and they can see Duragrim like, "Remember me?" Duragrim says as he's, you know, leveraging his rifle. "He's back! The remnant's back! To arms! To arms!" As they all like reach for their weapons on the nearby they've been in communion with. As they look back up at Duragrim with harsh gaze, and they are preparing for battle. So we trade turns back and forth. I'm gonna assume that is our first turn, even though we kind of like attack from surprise, right? Which means that it's going to be the soldiers. So we did 3 points of damage to them, so 7, 6, 5. Now they could either attack from a bad position, or they can move to get a better position. I don't think they have a lot, in my mind's eye, I don't imagine they have like a lot of ranged weaponry. I imagine they are like an enforcer group, so they have a lot of like big, heavy-handed black iron weapons, shields, that kind of stuff. So attacking me from this position is probably not their best bet. So I think what they want to do is they want to get a better position. So in my mind, they're going to have to move to get to me. And then they're going to have to use an action to maybe do something to either climb or get me down to be able to fight me fair. So I think the first thing that they're going to do is move, right? They have to move to get to my position. So you hear them all yelling, to arms, the remnant's back! Take him down for the glory of our masters! Glory of our masters! You hear like that, they all begin to chant as they run forward with arms held high, right? Which means now it's back to our turn. So we're just kind of up here, and we get to just fire down and like and pick people off. So we no longer have a excellent position. So before we got to roll twice and take the highest result, but now we just roll one step higher than we normally would. So if we have, we're gonna use our gun, our axe gun. So normally we would roll a D8, but because we have a good position, we roll a D10, right? And that is then going to be lowered down a step because we're using it. So even though we're rolling a D10, we're lowered down to a D6 for future fights. So we're gonna roll a 3. Okay, a 3 is respectable. A 3 is 2 hits. Okay. So let's go back here. We're going to go to the quest. We got 3 hits, which means they have 2 HP left. Okay. Ambush, group up. They can't do any of that. Because they, although now they're going to be grouped up in multiple attacks in person. Okay. So basically, yeah, they're rushing to get to us. And as they're rushing in this, like, big group of, like, black iron, you know, legion, Duragrim just smiles to himself. That's right. You just keep nice and tight together. For the glory of old Haas und Roll. You forget yourselves in the name of your dark masters. Just like letting a rain of hail down from the top of the stones. And you can see more of them as they're rushing. You know, they take it in the shoulder. They take it in the belly. They take it in the head. They're just like falling over in droves as we're picking them off. They finally get to my position. And I think from here, they will now make a move to reduce my position, right? And so I think to do that, they all sort of like encircle themselves around the stone, right? So I can't get like a bead on them from above because now they're like too tight against the rocks. As you can see, like one of the Hellsworn commanders looks at the rest of her comrades and sort of tightens her grip around her weapon and closes her eyes as her burning brand begins to glow with newfound light and power, reddish fire glowing from her exposed skin from underneath her armor, and you can see that's like smoke and embers begin to glisten up from her gauntlets, and it sort of travels up the length of the axe, sort of imbuing it, or we'll say the hammer, right? Because I have an axe, so it's cooler if it's a little different. Imbuing it with these sort of like fiendish red burning sigils until it reaches the head of the implement, which now has like a halo of hellfire around it. As she opens her eyes, and like all the rest of her companions have done the same thing. They are now holding these like burning weapons. As they, we'll say that costs ambush. That is like a cool ability. That should give them extra damage. We'll talk about that in a second, should it come to it, because we don't even know if they're going to get a chance. I might roll well enough if they don't get a chance. But at least in terms of for now, they're all holding their flaming weapons as they all look to her. And then she, like, looks towards the stone. Bring it down! She yells as, like, they all sort of in unison swing back. And then... And all of these, like, heavy... flaming implements strike the stone at the same time, and it sends these volcanic fissures like cracking up the stone until it like splinters in all directions. Duragrim, us on top, we're like sliding down the stone, like getting ever nearer towards the bottom of the canyon, or the chasm, I should say. And we tuck and roll, and we sort of manage to Fleetwood says we're on fire. Quite literally, we managed to slide down the stones and like tuck and roll until we land on our feet and we wheel around. And so now, unfortunately, we are on the same height as our enemies, but they had to waste all that time just getting us down from there, right? Which means now it is going to be our turn. So as long as we don't royally botch this damage roll, we should be fairly safe. Okay. I'm wondering too, RP, if you watch this, given the new adjustments to energy for enemies, because if I'm not mistaken, enemies never reduce their die rolls, right? So, unlike us, when we use an attack or a skill or ability, we step down our die rolls. Which makes sense if we're using energy, because then we are forced to move down our die rolls. But if enemies don't usually move down die rolls, right? Does that mean they like through regular attacks they don't, but through energy they do? That's interesting. Something to think about. I'll bring it up next time I see you, or DM you, or, you know, the internet. Anyway, it's our turn. Okay, so as long as I don't botch this damage roll, we should be pretty decent. Unfortunately, we've lost our good position, so we are just rolling normally. But hey, you know, we did what we had to do. And let us... Let us roll. What are we going to roll? What's our best bet to attack right now? Our item is a D6. All of our skills are D4s. Probably our item right now, which then will tie everything up. So let's go back to our item. We're going to reduce the D6 to a D4. And we're just rolling this plane. Come on, big bucks, no whammies, no whammies. Oy vey, a 2. Which is probably... No, it's not enough to kill him. It's not enough to kill him. So, unfortunately, we are going to suffer some bit of damage from this. Alright, so they're down to 1 health. So we tuck and roll. We get onto our feet. We release one more shot, which is just enough time to, you know, sort of release our final ranged attack on the ground before they are well within their zone to encircle us. So we managed to maybe catch one in the back before they wheel around to see where we've landed, and it just like cuts through their armor, and you can see shattered black obsidian like shoot out of the other side of their ribcage with a spurt of red as there's like a gasp of pain, like and like falling forward, more of their blood boiling on the stones. But the group is still alive, right? They're still able to move toward us. So they're going to encircle us now. So they can group up. They can attack. They can get 1 extra damage. And they can attack from excellent position. So I'm going to say, like, the number 1 hit to their rolls is probably from the flaming weapons. But what does this mean for their energy? I'm just going to roll it straight, because the original rule said their dice don't go down. But now I am really, I'm curious. But anyway, it's going to suck for us. We're going to take some damage. So they rolled an 8, which means they're going to deal 3 hits worth of damage. So Duragrim was at 8 health from his former situation. 7, 6, 5. Took 3 hits. So once again, they rush us with their... Oh, but actually, we have... Part of being a remnant is that we are naturally resistant to hellfire. We are naturally resistant to demon's flames. So I would actually say that instead of rolling fair, they would roll bad. So they would have to take the lowest of... So they'll still get the benefit of the +1 to their attack roll. But instead of getting the 8, they'll get the 3, which is then converted into a 4. So it's only 2 hits, which is slightly better. So we're down to 6 HP. I'll take it. I'll take every bit of extra HP I can get. So yeah, so they come at us. One slamming into the stone as they run upward as we leap back. Another one swinging a flaming greatsword above our head. We duck down. We parry another one with our axe, but there's just so many of them until eventually one gets lucky and lurches forward with a long spear with a broad, you know, serrated head that is blazing like red hot metal as it strikes through our battered, you know, traveling armors. And you hear another one of those like hollow pops, leathery pops, as our ancient, you know, empty body is wounded and release some of its visceral energy. Duragrim releases a cry of pain, but is still standing. So now it's us again. Boy, oh boy. I guess it doesn't really matter what we roll. We're at least gonna roll a 1. So yeah, it doesn't matter. There's no 0 on a result of damage. So we probably should just roll something that's not going to reduce a die step like strength. And then maybe catch our breath after the fight's done. I think is probably our best bet. Okay. So let's go back to, and that way we don't lose any lose any more memories taking potions, because we've already lost 3 in like the 2 days that we've been traveling the land. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna roll our d4. I don't think it matters. We rolled a 4, which is 2 hits, but they only had 1 HP left, so this reduces them down to 0. So yeah, I think like it's like this montage, right, of us like we take the spear strike, and then it's like parrying a blow, taking it down to the ground while they're locked in position, you know, like shooting them as they're trying to wrestle their weapon free, butting someone in the face with the back of the axe, and then swinging down and like lodging it into their shoulder, and then using them as like a firing position to shoot into the enemy behind them. It's just like this whirlwind of blades and lead and smoke and blood as Duergrim manages to like wrestle the remaining last enemies down until finally, and I'm gonna especially do this one for Loki, who's on our Discord, because we were talking about they said don't do anything I wouldn't do to an enemy in this playthrough, and I said, well, with the axe gun, and I said, well, Loki, what would you definitely not do so I know not to do it? And so basically it's going to be, you know, this scene right here. We'll say the Dwarven commander, you know, she's holding her flaming warhammer, and she's looking haggard and bedraggled. She's already probably suffered a few errant gunshots, but she's still standing. And then she, like, tries to lift her warhammer above her head for, like, one defiant blow. One kneecap. She falls over. Her hammer falls to the side. We shoot the other kneecap. As she, like, falls on her wounded knees, like, falls forward, tries to brace herself on her hammer to, like, not fully collapse onto the ground, as she's like shaking as she looks back up, and like as she's like looking up at us, hate in her eyes, like completely blinded by this demonic rage, we like upswing the axe and then just bury it like right between her eyes, and there's just a spray of red across our armors as she is slain, and we take care of we take care of these enemies. So perfect. Yeah, bandits are slain. Oh, I didn't realize that I took off my battle music. I put it back to the mine music. Sorry, that was probably less dramatic than it should have been. But that all being said, the Hell Dwarves are slain. And that is a victory for us. So a couple things should happen here. We are definitely going to loot the place. We are definitely going to... what else? We might catch our breath. Which might cause a complication. But so might looting the place, so it's kind of either or. Okay, let's go to Duergrim, abilities, inventory. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to take a little. All right. So I think Duergrim cleans the blood off of the axe gun and sort of like looks down at the littered bodies of the Hell Dwarves, which he's just taken to task. And I think there's a part of him that sort of remembers the refugees from before that they had stopped along the way, and sort of closes his eyes in this temple, this once holy place, which has now been taken from their people, and he thinks about those refugees and sort of seeing them, sort of urging them to run, right? and just sort of like slowly closes his eyes, and he says, "May the lords of the stone protect you. May your footsteps rumble with the boulders sliding down the mount. May you find safe caves, caverns deep, to protect yourselves. Go on, brothers and sisters. Go on." And just sort of wish them well, hoping that he couldn't help them then, but perhaps in some way defeating these hell dwarves. Now, hopefully they got away and will prevent any further death to come by their hand. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna... Oh, wait, did I? I think I rolled the d6 before. I think I'm now... The d8 before. I think I'm now at a d6. 5 for the looting. Alright. So, we find a d6 depletable item. Nice. Which is also going to give us a advancement. Let's take a look at our sparks again. I like using the sparks as a item generation tool. So we're gonna go... Although they do have an artifact table, but is this like an artifact really? You know? Doesn't feel like an artifact. It just feels like something we might find. So I'm not gonna use the artifact table. I'll just use this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got a 3 and a 2. So we have search. It's always search. And then a 3 and a 6. 3 and a 6. Search for love. I feel like I rolled search for love last time, and then I changed it so I could find a different item, and I got search for resilience. Honestly, okay, search for love. I don't know what kind of item this is going to be. A search for love item in this place. Okay. Well, okay, let's think about it. So we're in this place, and it's a temple that they've turned into a demon sanctuary. So perhaps love, in my mind right now, in the context of the Hell Dwarves, is that like they love, they revere these demons, right? So we're gonna say D6 depletable, and that is a, yeah, looks like search for resilience, search for love. So perhaps this item that we find is search. We've already used a rod, like a dowsing rod. What else helps you search? Has to be something depletable. And it can't be something like more permanent, like a helmet or... I kind of want it to be maybe some sort of stone? Or could be a crystal, a stone. Something that helps us. Yeah, okay. Maybe it is, we peel it from the dwarves, and it's like a black iron amulet, right? And in the center, it's like a ruby red stone, which is burning with this red light, which is very... The burning red light is very similar to the stone we saw in the Burning Band of Brolta, so it kind of makes sense that they're using these stones, these rubies that they were able to commune with demons. The Burning Band uses it to control demons, but the demons wouldn't give the Hell Dwarves that power. But perhaps it's like an amulet that allows them to know when their demon masters are nearby. Right, so like when they're out on the field and they need to report to someone, or they need to like get reinforcements, or they need to, refill their sort of fiendish powers, they can be guided towards their overlords. But for us, we can probably use it in an alternating sense, where we could probably use it to, like, know where the demons are and help us avoid them, right? Okay. So this is, we're gonna call this the demon something amulet. The demon. We're gonna call it the Helltouched Amulet. Helltouched Amulet. So search. I'm gonna replace love for demons. So it searches for demons. It is love, but for them, they love demons. So yeah, okay, cool. I dig that. So that is gonna be what we find there. Now, there is a part of me that, what is the word here? The complications, right? So, there's a part of me that, like, we were being hunted by something that was looking for greed, right? And now we just found something of value. So there's a part of me that, like, maybe thinks that because we found something of value, this thing that's been stalking us maybe locates us. But we have to catch our breath anyway. And maybe we should. Let me reread the rules for catching our breath. This is the first time I've done it. This resets all of your skills to their original ratings, but triggers a new complication as a result. So, yeah. Oh, and it doesn't reset items. Interesting, because I used a lot of my use on my axe gun is down to a D4. Okay. Okay. So, I think what happens here is we're gonna... How are my skills? This is bad. This is bad. Everything's a D4 right now. Because these are the only things that are skills, right? The loot die, all of that. Yeah, skills, lasting items, loot die, and resilience. It also clears your grit and removes all hindrances. Yeah, so I think we only get our skills back, but the skills are already the lowest they can be, so I think it's what we have to do. So, if that's the case, I think we have to catch our breath. We're going to reset our skills, which is just those two. And yeah, I think so. Duergrim rifles through the belongings of the fallen hell dwarves. We can see now that they have died. Their sort of like holy communion with their fiendish idol has like whiffed out, right? The flames have died down. There's just this black obelisk carved in like a demonic visage, by itself. And as we, slip, it's probably around the neck of the girl that we just slew, right? Because she's like the commander of their forces. So we take this amulet, we slip it around our neck, we're like staring at it, and we're like turning it in our hands, and we're like communing with it, and we're like understanding its purpose. And in the reflection of the red ruby, right? We can like take a look over our shoulder, and we can see a shadowy figure watching us from like the stones from behind. The same thing that has been pursuing us in its lust for greed as we've uncovered treasure. And I think that might be a really good place to hold for the next session, right? A good cliffhanger. I don't even know what this thing is yet, but it has found us in a moment of uncertainty, right? But one thing we will do is, what is our dream of glory? Our dream of glory was to recover, well, I said a dwarven artifact. Now this is an amulet that is a Helltouched amulet, but do we assume that it is also somewhat for... Yeah, I assume, yeah. We've been talking about how they're runesmiths, they make magical artifacts. I would assume so. Why not? we're playing a solo game. Let's give ourselves every possible advantage we can, right? So our next stream of glory will be to find the entrance to the caves. That's pretty much our main objective right now, is to find the entrance to the caves. It's a very specific goal, which is less, what's the word, malleable than, like, the one we just had, which kind of gave us an extra opportunity to get an advancement. But, like, I think we're here now. That is the most clear-cut goal. So yeah, let's roll for an advancement and see what we get. You get what you get, and you don't get upset. A 14. We gain 1 resilience. Okay. Which means now we are at Dudergrim Fell Deep. We were at 9. We were at 10. And what was our current from that fight? We were at 6. So now we'll say we're at 7, right? Because we gained the resilience. So we'll say we gained that to, like, the base pool here. So yeah, we managed to earn ourselves a few new scars, but we make ourselves tougher in the meantime. We've gained 3 resilience since the game has started, which has proven instrumental, because that first fight, I did not know how to handle being vulnerable and whether or not that should kill us outright, and I still don't know, but I talked to RP about it, and they're like, yeah, that seems like a cool idea, roll willpower to see if you hang on. So I definitely earned myself a few extra rounds by doing that, but not dying, I think. Having the extra resilience to even not risk that danger is probably ideal. So yeah, I'll take some extra health. Never a bad idea. All right, I think that is going to be where we hold our stream for now. We're going on 2.5 hours. Seems like a good spot. Here's some inspirational images of Hazun Roll, right? Like the dwarf, the fire scorched dwarven lands. This is probably what we're looking at now as we get deeper into the earth and we start heading into the old caverns and the old dungeons, right? But yeah, awesome. That was a fun session. I'm gonna go back to the just chatting screen. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another session of Level 1 Adventuring, another session of Tales of the Burned Stones. The journey of Dudergrim Fell Deep continues. We have stalked our way down to a dungeon, although something has tailed us and we've survived our first fight, but we're going to find out what else has decided to come along with us. I've been your host and Dungeon Master, Game Master, person who tells stories, Wolfe Scott. This is Level 1 Adventuring. If you're new here, what are we? We are a storytelling game and TTRPG and role-playing game. We do digital ones too. Platform. We do Dungeons and Dragons. We do solo games like we did tonight. We do digital games like Solasta and Baldur's Gate 3, which is going to be coming out very soon. Please follow us on all the platforms. That's where, like, our YouTube, all the previous episodes will be visible if you want to watch some of the older games in this series or some of the other ongoing series that we have. Come on to the Discord, where I post some memes, some Homebrew 5e content, and we're going to be playing some 5e together there as a community very soon, which will be very exciting. And thank you to all of the people who make this stream possible. StreamLabs, StreamSpell, Tabletop Audio, our AI Twitch bot, all of those resources you can find links to down below that you can download for yourself and upgrade your own stream. And if you do, we get a little kickback and it helps us out, so thank you so much. And also, thank you so much to RP, who has written Tales of the Burned Stones, this wonderful solo-friendly game that I'm having a lot of fun playing. I'm having a lot of fun with the Breathless system in general. It makes me really want to do something with it and, like, hack it and do something with it, so I might, since it is open license. Why not? But it's very fun, and I thank you for your ingenuity and your creativity and just your friendship with the channel. Really appreciate you. And I think that is all that I want to say for now. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I do believe we have enough people to continue our journey across Mira with a D&D campaign. I think we have everybody. I think we might have a full party. So you can join the gang and creep their Nothic sidekick that they've somehow conscripted into this wild journey. And hopefully they survive their own dungeon delve they're going on right now. And then after that, we'll see about the rest of the week. You might see me, you might not. Oh wait, today's Monday, so no, Tuesday. Wednesday is D&D night, so that look up for that on Wednesday. Tuesday, I think I actually have a meeting tomorrow, so I don't think I'll be here Tuesday, but I might be in later in the week. I might do a catch-up stream. I'll announce it on the Discord / the Twitter if I do. But that all being said, it has been wonderful hanging out with you tonight. I hope you had fun with these next adventures of Duragrim, more to come. And until then, be well, adventure well, be well, and we'll see you on the next one. So I'm going to roll that beautiful outro. Have a wonderful night, everybody.